the need for salvation is a very interesting thing in many ways, especially when people talk about their independence or their free will or their self autonomy and how they're not suckers for, politics or politicians' bullshit speeches or the BBC, and then they follow a celebrity. And it's not really because a celebrity is saying anything new, it's because they see the celebrity as validating their own opinions on things. And what people don't understand is that celebrities are engineered salvation from above. And the problem is you're suffering from a disease. If you need someone to save you, or you need a counter culture or mainstream culture savior, someone who validates your opinions and so on, you're really a slave. That's really what you are. And you're also suffering from a disease. And the disease is that you have not understood that the problem is really your belief in external salvation beyond yourself. If you didn't need to feel this desire to have an authority figure or a celebrity or a politician validate and express your feelings, you wouldn't need these, saviors in the first place. And this is the root of the problem. This is where the disease comes from. We are very carefully controlled from the time we're children to have a sort of a need for a savior. You grow up with that picture of Jesus Christ with his Dionysian beard and long hair and his softness and his Aryan looks, and you believe that deep in your subconscious, well down in your lower poles of cognitive functioning, that this is someone you need. This is why the image of Jesus, you'll not only see it in Christian countries, you see it all over Muslim countries, believe it or not. And especially you'll see it all over Turkey, for instance. And you'll see it especially in Hindu countries. If in India, if you go and ask sign painters, after Vishnu, Krishna, who are the most popular, or maybe Arjuna, who are the most popular icons they paint, they will tell you after them two, it's either Michael Jackson, Jesus, or Elvis. Because Michael Jackson's Jesus, the celebrity, and Elvis are all the same thing. We've been very carefully engineered to see these archetypes as the same thing. So when you look on TV and you see Russell Brand articulating your spiritual consciousness revolution, what you're really seeing is Jesus Christ pontificating from, the Mount of Olives. It's the same psyop that's been played on you. It's like that, you need that savior. It's like in the film, the Life of Brian, where the guy goes, "You are the Messiah, and I should know. I followed a few." And that's the absurdity of it taken down to what it really is. Now, you can be inspired by the work of somebody. You can say, well, that person inspires me. That person has written something, a song, a piece of music, whatever, and it inspires me. But that's really where it ends. That doesn't mean that you then hand over your path to salvation to those expressions created by that individual. And also, if you look at what they say, it's never anything new. Those of you who are obsessed with Russell Brand are only happy because he's repeating what you've heard other people, from Greg Braden to David Wilcock to David Icke and so on, as well as, sort of like lefty political commentators like Billy Bragg and those kinds of people have already said. It's not anything new. It just has a different package, and the package that it comes from has that Dionysian Christ-like savior archetype, and this is what draws you to it. But you're missing the point completely, because the only savior you need is yourself, because that's the only savior you're ever going to find. Unfortunately, through pop culture, we have been given saviors in the belief, in the conditioning, in this Pavlovian conditioning, that they are our only path to salvation. Look at Laurel Canyon, Jim Morrison and the rest of them, and all that horrible music that came out of there, with the impossible exception of Neil Young, who kind of broke his programming. But all that horrible, sugary, sweet rock that was produced by all the sons and daughters of military intelligence and army and navy personnel, senior officers, by the way, who all grew up together, and was used to kill off the real rise in consciousness during the 60s with the flower power era. People were really rising up in the 60s, and what did they do? They gave them, are you going to San Francisco? And they gave them, California, and all that other crap. And it diverted them into the summer of love, when it really should have been the summer of evolution. The summer of love stole the summer of evolution. And the same thing has happened again, folks. We had this mass movement from the alternative. We said, I'm not voting anymore. I don't care. I'm not taking part in it. It's all rubbish. I want to make my own life. So you had a sort of kind of a growth of anarchy. But it was kind of like an instinctual anarchy. It wasn't an anarchy that manifested from some kind of control force. It brewed up from the grassroots. And they hate anything from the grassroots. That's the purpose of the purple pill. To poison anything from the grassroots coming up. And so the same thing is happening again. Russell Brand and all these other celebrities, and more of them are going to come out. We've already had Ashton Kutcher, who's this pathetic creature who makes vast amounts of money for nothing, and so on. Now, one of the things I want to say, I know you're all saying, oh, Tommy Sheridan's jealous of sexy Russ again. And, I don't know where that one came from, but that never ceases to make me laugh. But one of the things you need to remember about Russell Brand is, especially you Americans, that in the UK and Ireland, he's on the same level in terms of his public profile as this guy called Pauly Shore, who was like this MTV VJ back in the 80s. You see the connections? You dig out pictures of Pauly Shore when he was like at his height in the 80s. He was dressed in the same womanly man way, with the kind of like camp poses and the kind of sort of like hippie archetype, the scarf around the neck with the waistcoat, the vest, and the kind of like camp posing, and the same kind of ideas. He made Dumbass Movie. He was in Dumbass Movie. I think he was in Encino Man, which is a stupid film, and he was the same archetype then. And it all feeds through back to the 60s. It all goes back to the, hey man, summer of love, man, and all that kind of Woodstock, the day the people rose up and listened to Janis Joplin and nothing happened. And that's what we're dealing with. They're very, very clever. They're more clever than you'll ever be. And somebody said to me today that his friend told him, and his friend considers himself completely awake. His friend said, if we can't believe in Russell Brand, then who can we believe? And I think that's one of the most depressing comments I've ever heard. All they did was awaken to become Sheeple 2.0. They still don't get it. The only route to salvation is your own ass. Accept it and please deal with it.